Hello, hello. Welcome to the next chapter of Suspending Disbelief, a challenge I took in April of 2024 to suspend disbelief for 365 days and share my raw journey of it for the entire year, every day. Now, I didn't maintain the everyday part all the way through, although I did for a really good chunk of it. You can go binge those at any time. I also just want to reiterate that while I may not have accomplished exactly what I set out to do last year, I did accomplish an insane amount. Some of those accomplishments are finally launching my guided meditations album right at the end of the 365 days. That one was a couple of years in the making. I also spoke on a real live stage. I moved through losing my home to living on another friend's couch, basically, into a new home, which was so much better than I could have dreamed. I increased my income. I paid my mom back, even though I had to borrow again after the fact, but I got out of the late fees cycle that originally put me out of my home I was in when I started by increasing my business income again. I healed from major traumas, including but not limited to basically losing one of my best friends of 25 years as truths came out. I overcame mountains of energetic blocks when it came to my life, my kids, and my business. I quadrupled my prices in some parts of my business and refined and improved so many others. I had my first 5K payday. I found a state of living in peace, even in the most disruptive and hard times. And I really came to understand and maintain love anyways and love always in all things unconditional love. So really, I think I'm still on track, and the path there just looked a little different than I originally thought it would. Okay, so in prepping for this episode, I, of course, decided to listen to the original episode of the Manifestation Babe podcast that sparked my entire first year challenge of suspending disbelief. I will put the link for that in the show notes again, just for anyone who's new here or who wants to go revisit that as well. In listening to it, I wanted to re-glean some of the affirmation type ideas that I had originally gleaned from that episode, because at the beginning of that first year, I was really using them a lot and it was really powerful. So I will talk about those all again, and I will share some of the ones I created or picked up throughout the last year, as well as some that I never mentioned in the original year podcast, but which I have been using consistently lately to align my life and business with my highest and most aligned timeline and purpose here on earth at this time. So here we go. Okay, the ones I got from her originally. So I'm going to touch on them and I'll probably explain a little bit as well. So she talked about how where you currently are is your worst case scenario. If you were to get worse than where you are right now, you know how to get back to where you are again because you've done it before. So you can always come back here, right? So the better it gets, the better it gets. And you cannot actually land in a worse place than where you are right now. So that is actually really hope inspiring, right? And it was a concept that sort of takes away the fear of what if I take this leap of faith and it makes things worse, right? It removes that fear because even if it does do that temporarily, you can always come back to where you are now. So another one was, what if I lived my life as if my prayers had already been answered or my dreams had already come true? What if I lived my life as if my success was inevitable? What would happen if I suspended all my doubts for just 1 year of my life? What if I lived my life as if the law of attraction were absolutely real and I had no doubts about it at all? And this was the thing, right? This was the basis of her experiment. This was the basis of my challenge that I set for myself and for a few other ladies as well last year, was to suspend all disbelief for a year and see how far we got, right? She said that herself and James Wedmore, who I'm not even really sure who that is, but that's who she mentioned, had both sort of come up with the same phrase separately, and they weren't sure who had picked it up from the other, but it was, my success is inevitable and I am always on the right path. So that was like the main affirmation that this whole challenge was based around, right? Another reminder she mentioned was that the universe works in the 11th hour. So if you wait 6 months for nothing to happen, what would that do to you? You have to remember that it might take all 12 months, right? So there's this like never give up hope aspect to it. And it really shifts the perspective on the way that you look at things, the way that you, stop assuming that one negative thing equals I failed at this. And it made a huge, huge difference. There was some points I remember throughout the year where I was finding so many reminders of that, of the universe working in the 11th hour. There was I think like a video by Amanda Francis where she was talking about keep on manifesting until after you're dead, or or like something along those lines. Like it was, you have to keep believing even past the deadline, and it will always work out if you do that kind of thing. So, and then also I read the book, The Big Leap, last year during around that same point where I was really focused in on that universe working in the 11th hour. And it was very tied in. I highly recommend that as well. Another one was, I found it was really interesting, actually. She started her original experiment of this in May as well, you guys. So spring is definitely the time for new goals, new seeds to plant, and not the new year, right? Not the Gregorian calendar new year. The time where these things really come into alignment and have more power when we're planting the seeds for them, when we're just starting them out, is in the spring. And so the original one that I did, I started on April 23rd, 2024. This round, the next chapter of Suspending Disbelief, I am starting on May 1st, 2025. And I'm not sure exactly what day in May she started, but she had also started her original round of her experiment, as she calls it, in May. So this is really something to take note of and be aware of, is that if you are still trying to manifest based on a calendar year instead of an astrological year, or a natural seasonal cycle year, this works a lot better. It really aligns better just with the energy in general. So, and what I wanted to point out about this, aside from the fact that she started in May, was that the actual first evidence, like the first major evidence that she saw that her experiment was working, was not until New Year's Eve, when she started in May. So like 8 months, you guys. You have to keep going until you hit that tipping point. Hold the faith until you die, as Amanda Francis, and I think even actually the manifestation babe lady, I cannot remember her name right now, I totally just blanked on it, but both of them have said it like that, where it's just like, keep believing until you die, like don't ever stop. And it's actually really, really powerful when you do that. It's just like, no, there's no option of giving up on this belief. So very, very key. An important question that she asked: are you willing to go 6 months or more in suspending disbelief without any results in exchange for your dream life? Like, are you the kind of person who's going to give up, right? So I did do this last year, even if my results were a little bit wobbly, even if I got kind of off and on the track for what I was specifically manifesting, what I was specifically suspending disbelief about. I did do this. I continued to suspend disbelief and keep that as a focus and keep it in my mind, and keep reviewing for the entire year. And I will say, even though some of the results were different just because of my own, again, lack of focus, right, where I had just so many manifestations I was trying to do at once. Aside from that, like, I made huge strides. I had a lot of progress that happened in the last year. And those ones I mentioned at the beginning of this episode were like, that's just a few of them. That's not even everything that happened. So, this is definitely powerful. It definitely works, right? And that is also why this year I'm doing it again. And I'm doing it again, but I am doing it more intentionally and with a narrower focus this time, right? And we're going to see how far that takes me this year. And it's just a really interesting experiment. It's something that it's very powerful, the taking time to reflect on your daily life. And it's really interesting to see how far you get. And I mean, what are the negatives, right? Right. We're working on fixing our mindset, on working with our trust instead of, allowing our ego mind to take over, all of these kinds of things. Like, it's all very powerful. It's all very healing. It's all very beneficial. So there's just no downside. So are you willing to go that 6 months or more in suspending disbelief without any results in order to manifest your dream life? And hell yes, I am. Right? So are you? So this is not a quick fix, though. There's a lot of inner work to be done. It's a simple process, but not an easy one. So keep that in mind. Because you can either be the why bother kind of person who's like, oh, I've gone 6 months believing and it's not doing anything, so I give up. Or are you one of the ones who will do it and go all the way through and see it through to the end and have the results that brings you? So there we go. That was kind of the things I pulled out of listening to her episode again. So now the ones that I came up with or discovered in the in-between, like during the last 365 days, which honestly, I guarantee you I will not remember them all. And even though I jotted down some notes, I'm sure I did not bring them all back up. They may come back again as I move forward throughout this year. They may not. Maybe they were just there for the moment. But here are a few of them. Okay, so as I heal myself, I heal the collective. This was a big one for me. It reminds me that there's an even bigger purpose to all of this, and not to fall off of my own suspending disbelief path because others are relying on me, others are inspired by me, others are following in my footsteps. So my healing is important because it helps to heal the collective. This is really tied in with another one of mine, which is trusting the world to keep spinning on its own, right? And just letting it do that and not feeling the need to control the outcomes of others. While I know that my journey is important to maintain because others are inspired by it, I'm not taking responsibility for their inspiration or their journey. And so if they fall off, that's not on me, kind of thing. Another one was electrons. So this one was based on Jess's explanation near the beginning of last year of how manifestation really works through the lens of an atom, where there are protons and neutrons on the inside and electrons circling on the outside, and electrons being the negative charge, which of course we have this perception of negative and positive, and I've talked so much about that. But with it being the negative charge, it's that reminder that the negatives are on the outside and we must pass through them to get to the positive particles on the inside. So when you're manifesting, expect that hard things are going to come first, and that when you continue to believe through those hard things, you will arrive at those positives on the inside, right? When you continue on. So that was a really powerful one last year. My success is already here. So the original affirmation was my success is inevitable. And that is a really powerful affirmation, you guys. But when I sort of hit my tipping point where I did start noticing like manifestations were arriving and the positives were starting to happen and everything, was I switched into this mentality of my success is already here, and really living in what I would call like the gratitude rampage mentality, just really seeing everything through that lens of like how amazing it is. Even the hard things, how they are benefiting me, seeing the silver lining, cup is half full, all of that. So I'm calling that, I never officially named it that or anything, but I'm calling that my success is already here mentality, living in the gratitude rampage mentality. That is just a way of living that I have now adopted probably from, I'm not even sure when it was exactly during the last year, but at least halfway through the last year, all of a sudden I had this switch flip, and it really, even though I've always been a positive aspect kind of person, like I've always seen the positive sides, my perception really flipped to where I was like almost always in that mindset. And that's really powerful. And when you're in that mindset, you are learning, growing, and you are enjoying every day, even when the hard stuff happens. So that one's really big. Another thing that came out of it was my before bed manifestation process, which I still try to use and I can definitely anchor back into and be more consistent with. I am going to try to do that. This is where I call in my guides to support and deliver to me my manifestations. I'm asking for the specific things I'm manifesting in writing, and I'm basically giving that over to them to deliver, and then choosing to be open and asking to be opened to receive them in the most aligned way possible. Okay, and you guys, there may be the occasional interruptions in these audio podcast. I'm keeping this raw and real, just like I did last year. I will try not to have massive interruptions, but I'm not going to edit like crazy. I'm not going to, edit my life so much anymore. It's just like, this is who I am. And I find that it's a really powerful way of showing up in the world, and that it is really helpful, for the people who are following and listening. So I'm going to keep that going. So if you just heard a bang, that's why. Anyways, continuing on. So, these last ones I'm not going to really dive into, just because there's like so much, and this episode could end up being really, really long. But some of the things that came up as I was sort of skimming through and trying to remind myself of what came up over the last year. Universal breadcrumbs was a big theme, just, really following the little pieces that you notice. The Big Leap book, which I already mentioned, really starting to appreciate contrast, which is, again, sort of that my success is already here, and living in that gratitude rampage mentality, appreciating that contrast and just knowing that it is highlighting for me what I do want instead of what I don't want. Einstein time, and just, I always have enough time to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish. That was a really, really big mindset shift for me. And then manifesting past the deadline, like I mentioned. And yeah, oh my gosh, I could dive so much into each of these, right? And probably will again, but not in this episode. So now here are three, these ones I've been using lately that have been really, really impactful. And I have not ever mentioned these on the podcast in the past. So these are more questions. These are more like questions to frame my mindset into than affirmations or ideas per se, right? So, number one, what am I currently automating, systematizing, or aligning with my big vision? And this is especially applicable to my business, or for those of you who have businesses, but it also doesn't have to be. Okay. You can automate outside of business as well, with things like bill payments, so your bills are never paid late. You can systematize the way your chores work in your house with your kids, so that your chores don't get bored with one task or argue that someone else has easier chores than they do, and so on. You can simplify and cut out parts of your daily actions that are not actually needing to be run by you in all areas of your life. And doing that, automating and simplifying, etc., will always align you with your bigger vision for your life, because it frees up your time. It often frees up your money, think late fees, etc., and so on. Okay. So next one. Number two is what I'm working on today, moving me closer to the business model I want? Or is it just keeping things running and maintaining the past version of my business that I'm supposed to be moving away from? Okay. So this is getting really intentional in making sure that I'm not just sort of maintaining the status quo, that I am actually shifting towards the business model that I want. This is obviously super specific to business. Okay. That's okay though, since I think that most of you who listen are entrepreneurs anyway. But this one is about really intentionally taking actions every day, right? To create a business that runs without my time or my presence. And, even outside of business, I'm sure that you can apply this concept, into your life. So I'm just trying to think like, uh, you know, if the life that you want to live is one where you travel a lot, are you actively working towards that? Are you, choosing to travel in a small way? Like I've mentioned before on the podcast, where it's like, live the life you want to live right now. Don't wait. It might be a smaller version or on a smaller scale, but do it now. Don't wait. So, there's that as well. But for me, this one is very much about my business. This is taking those actions every day to create a business that runs without my time and without my presence, so that I can go on vacation, I can go camping, I can do whatever it is that I want to do, or I can have a week where things are just really, taking all my time with my kids, and my business still runs, brings me money, and so on. Okay. Also, in the long run, not that I see myself wanting to, because I really love what I do, but this is the kind of thing that long term makes it so that your business can be sold for a ton of money, right? And still run without you once you've reached that sort of next level success with it. being able to sell it as like a big, like, here, this machine already works, right? And also without breaking the brand, quote unquote, right? Per se. Because one of the biggest mistakes that most entrepreneurs make is building a super unique, powerful brand that is based around them as a person. So nobody else can really run it. So that makes it impossible, right? To outsource, to maintain without burning out, to scale without, again, burning out, to have it be something that you can hand off to someone else. So if you want to someday completely retire, but still have the money that your business has created, you want to be able to get it to the point where you can sell it and pass it off to someone else and walk away entirely, right? And just have a big payday kind of thing. So I am slowly shifting away from that model of the brand being me, so that someday if I decide I want to, I have that ability. It also means in the meantime that I can outsource pieces of it and get help, right? I can, as I scale, I can hire parts of it out that are not necessarily needing to be run by me. So that's a really important one on my business journey. And finally, number 3, the last set of questions I've been asking myself is, or are, how am I making today stand out? How's it special? Is it going to be worth remembering? And this one has probably been the most transformational, in that I am no longer willing to let the days slip by in the humdrum of monotony that most of us live our lives in, right? I want deep connection. I want exciting events. I want powerful memories, especially with my children, and I want huge transformations. I am not here to live a small life. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with a smaller life, right? But I'm here for big, bold, abundant life. And I refuse to let the small pieces be missed while building that big life. So I'm deeply connecting and building memories with my children while I'm building a business and life I can scale, right? So these 3 questions have been key and so instrumental in my journey lately at keeping me on the path to my big vision and valuing and highly prioritizing what matters most to me in my everyday life at the same time. So this is how I'm sort of keeping the balance, right? Okay, so all of these tips, all this advice, all these affirmations and reminders are great. These are a great reset for the beginning of my second round of suspending disbelief. And as I said in the last episode of the first year, I am getting way more focused and specific, I've decided 3 specific things to focus on to call into my life throughout the next 365 days instead of the big laundry list that I created last time. Okay. So this is really going to make the 3 questions I've been asking myself so much more powerful, because I will know exactly what I'm working towards. Again, those questions are: number 1, what am I currently automating, systematizing, or aligning with my big vision? Number 2, is what I'm working on today moving me closer to the business model I want, or is it just keeping things running and maintaining the past version of my business that I'm supposed to be moving away from? Number 3, how am I making today stand out? How's it special? Is it going to be worth remembering? So now I'm going to share what my 3 goals are for the next 365 days of suspending disbelief. And again, I have changed the name to Suspending Disbelief, the next chapter. Okay, number 1, I'm going to publish my first book. Okay, all last year, my guides were reminding me this was my path, and I was procrastinating it hardcore and making my life so much harder by trying to achieve the success I desired through different paths than the one I'm meant to be on. So, no more of that nonsense. By May 1st of 2026, I will have conceptualized, outlined, written, edited, and published the damn thing. The end. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, that's my number 1. Number 2, and this one is going to be instrumental and super supportive in making number 1 a reality, is I am going to create a business model that supports my life and my dreams so that I am enjoying the time and financial freedom I truly desire. Said time freedom will help me write the damn book. This business model looks like: number 1, I'm recreating, the programs I run that demand my presence and time to run without me there, almost completely, if not entirely. Okay, number 2, I get to create and function on my natural schedule and cycles and rhythm and support my children in doing the same while making plenty of money. And number 3, I'm going to specifically build up my passive evergreen income, stacking all the layers, automating all that I possibly can, and trusting that I can get by financially as I do so until the point where, number 3, all my debt is paid off and I have a savings account with 3 months worth of my expenses set aside in case of emergency. So those are my 3: publishing my book, financial freedom tied to my dream for time freedom, and all my debt paid off. So when I ask myself, what am I currently automating, systematizing, or aligning with my big vision? That makes it really easy for me to know what my big vision is, right? Publishing my book, having that time and financial freedom so that I can align with it. When I ask myself, is what I'm working on today moving me closer to the business model I want? Or is it just keeping things running and maintaining the past version of my business that I'm supposed to be moving away from? It makes it really clear that that is my focus, to achieve that financial freedom through a business that doesn't take all my time so that I don't fall into old habits. When I ask myself, how am I making today stand out? How is it special? Is it going to be worth remembering? I'm reminding myself that I get to enjoy the journey on the way there. I get to play. I get to write and accomplish that dream of publishing my first book. And I get to make really fun memories and go camping and do all the things I desire to do while I do the first 2 things, automating and changing my business model. So hopefully that all makes sense. It does to me, and that's really what matters. um, as I said, this podcast is going to stay real and raw, but as I mentioned last time, I will only be doing a monthly live update and reflection as an audio episode. Aside from, obviously, this kickoff one is not necessarily so much about reflection as looking forward. But the future ones will be reflections on the past month. And I will also be doing 3 to 4 written posts per month. The live updates as audios will also probably have a written portion as well. Okay. And this is officially day 1 of the next chapter, which is what I changed the name of the podcast to reflect the shift into the next part of my life. And also because my next chapter has so much to do with writing my book. So I thought that was a little bit poetic. So that's it. Day 1, and I am starting over, but not really because I have already built so much momentum over the last year. So comment what your takeaways are. Definitely let me know if you're on the suspending disbelief train. Woo woo, all aboard. Here we go again, right? Let us all know, what are the parameters of your experiment in suspending disbelief this year? What are you challenging yourself to suspend disbelief about? Declare it, mark it on your calendar. And I almost forgot. I am keeping this podcast and even the written posts as free content through Substack, but I will be opening up the paid subscription for just $5 a month for anyone who wants to be part of the chat and share their stories privately with others who are on the train actively suspending disbelief. I am also thinking about doing a couple of interviews of other women who are participating, whether from the first year on, like who started with me from the very beginning, or who are just starting this year, it doesn't matter. So if you are interested in being interviewed for that possibly, then definitely make sure you are part of the paid chat so I know about your journey. Okay. I'm not adding coaching per se. The suspending disbelief pod thing has like closed down. That is not a thing. I'm not adding anything that takes more of my time this year, right? So you guys know, though, I love to talk to you. So if you're chatting in those chats, you know I will be there sometimes as well. Don't forget your commitment once you make it. Don't forget that your ego is going to rear its head up into your path and test you, right? But we are suspending disbelief and we're doing the damn thing anyway. So I will talk to you all again next month. I can't wait to update on my progress and reflect in this more consistent but longer chunks of time way. All right. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.